and let's tell you the story of Mahesh Haywood, who is a barber, was a barber 6 years ago, when he realised that the men that he was seeing were coming in to get a trim, but often ended up opening up a lot more about the issues that they were facing. And so he's gone from that to a weekly yoga group called All Us Men. He joins me in the studio now with his yoga mat. Mahesh, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Very lovely to see you. I'm sorry for stooping to cliched yoga music, but
That's
you know,
fine. That's
it's
fine.
our format. Why not?
Why not?
So yeah, take me back to the start then. What was happening underneath your scissors, underneath your razor 6 years ago, and in the intervening period that made you think that yoga and conversations were something that men needed?
Yeah, so I think going back, I was having conversations with guys, and I think there's this trust thing where you're sat with your barber, you're having a haircut, you know, you're relaxed, and you just open up a little bit. And I realised that some of these guys were talking about issues that maybe they weren't talking about with the people they should be talking to these things about, you know, with their partners, with their family, with their loved ones and friends. And they were looking for somebody who was just going to listen. And in the yoga community, we call it holding space. And we just hold space. We allow you just to vent, just to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening. And so I realized that actually maybe we needed, or maybe I needed to facilitate somewhere that wasn't about drinking, going to the pub, and wasn't about sport. So there wasn't a distraction. It was just two people sitting and having a conversation. And then it grew from there, really. Before I knew it, I was having upwards of 15 people coming along to these groups where guys from all different walks of life and different ages as well were coming along, wanting to sit, learn to meditate, learn how to rest, learn how to quiet the mind. And it's been 2 years now. Been 2 years.
I wonder if there's something we might not have helped the cause there by playing that track, which is from a CD called Interstellar Meditation Music Zone.
Okay.
But I wonder if there's something that yoga and meditation struggles with, where there is a perception of it. So a man might not think it was for them.
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So there's this Instagram yoga world out there as well, with people on beaches, you know, folding themselves up into little tiny shapes and popping themselves in a box and sending themselves home. There's that version of yoga, and then of course there's the yoga which is, you know, a lot of people will go to studios, myself included. My first time going into a yoga class, there was maybe 15 women and me. Luckily, my background since I was 19 is hairdressing, so I'm used to being outnumbered.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel uncomfortable, but a lot of guys will feel uncomfortable, and there's a very feminine energy around yoga. Although saying that traditionally the traditional yogis were all men.
Yeah.
But in the West, we tend to find that it's very feminine led, and so that's why the way that I look. Obviously, you know, for radio, they don't know how I look, but I have a big beard, I have tattoos all over me, you know, and I don't fit the normal, oh, this guy does yoga. So I think when people were seeing me, they were saying, well, this guy cuts hair, you know, he's in the barbershop talking and having a bit of banter. He's covered in tattoos, he's got a great big beard, and he does this thing that's really mindful and relaxing. So
if it's working for him.
If it's
I'll
working
give
for
it a
him,
go.
yeah.
And like, I mean, just off the top of my head, but there are cheerleaders for the kind of the beachy yoga type things now that are they're high profile. You think about Novak Djokovic, terrific tennis player, and lots been made about how he's using a particular form of yoga to be able to stretch and be flexible to win all those tournaments.
Yeah.
And maybe it's becoming more acceptable for men to think about what form of yoga they'd like to do.
It is. I mean, I just came back from a retreat out in Spain. I was working out there with some guys from a company called Rock Sober. And this was a sober retreat, and there was a guy there called Dorian Yates. Now he's 6 times Mr. Olympia.
I've been to his gym in Birmingham.
There you go. So his son runs that now, and I met him, and you know, he's at an age where he can't physically do it anymore. So what has he turned to? He's turned to using his body in a different way, using his mind in a different way, and combining the two. And that's what yoga means, to yoke, to unite, uniting the body and the mind together. And so there I was in Spain with Dorian Yates, and I was taking him through yoga classes and meditation groups.
We're talking with Mahesh Haywood, who is from Bournemouth. He's a barber, and as we've been hearing, runs these groups for men. Is it? I mean,
I do. So all us men, obviously, is men.
Yeah.
But I do run a mixed class on a Saturday mornings because it's nice for me as an instructor, somebody who facilitates this, to be able to do it for everybody. But my calling really is to really find guys a space where they feel safe and they can explore new things.
I was going to ask you to teach. You brought your yoga mat in with you. I was going to ask you to teach me some yoga, but I don't know if that fits with this sense that yoga is about presence and focusing and relaxing and all that kind of stuff in the middle of a busy radio program.
Well, it's probably not the right place for it. We haven't warmed up, but
we'll leave it for now.
We'll leave it for now. I'll come back another day and we'll do it again.
If people are interested, All Us Men is where they find you on Facebook or Instagram. And these classes at the moment, are they just in the east of the county? Would you consider spreading westwards?
So I have been down to Chickerell in Weymouth.
Oh, yeah.
I was working with some of the people in the primary school there, and I've done some stuff with the children there, working around yoga. But I'm primarily based in Bournemouth, in Southbourne, that way. But this year I'm going to be moving around the country. I'm doing some festivals, so I'll be in Frome next week at a new festival called Men Fest, and there is Woman Fest first, and then Men Fest.
Neat.
And then I'll be at Wellbeing by the Lakes, which is in Dorchester, by the Sculpture by the Lakes there. So that is the following month. That's in September. So I'm going to be there as well. Just spreading the good word of yoga and well-being.
It's very nice to see this morning, and I am fascinated by those tattoos as well. I'd like to stop and have a closer look. But, crikey. You can find Mahesh as well as Bearded Vegan 1 on Twitter. Very good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Mahesh Haywood live with us on BBC Radio. So it's 16 minutes past 8 then. Our news headlines.